Hi guys, Carl here down at Sunshine Sailing Australia. This is another episode of Cruising with Carl. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, we've talked wind, we've talked tide, and we've talked momentum, and today we're going to start bringing those factors all together into some berthing situations. Today in particular, we will look at tide pushing out of the berth, so pushing through the berth like this, and wind at various different angles. The next video we'll look at tide pushing us into the berth with wind at various different angles. I'd also like to acknowledge the questions and feedback from the videos. It's been awesome. We've had some requests for some more complex scenarios, and we'll get into some of those after we finish with this content. To give you a bit of an insight into what they are, we've been asked to look at prop walk or transverse thrust, how the vessel moves around when you first get water moving over the prop. We'll look at that after this content. We've been asked about twin rudder, single screw or single prop vessels and how we control those. And we'll also look at catamaran berthing situations as well. But we'll get through this content, just a couple more videos to go for this, and then we'll start to look at some different ones. So let's get into today. Okay, so here we are about to come into our marina and berth our boat in our spot in here. We've got tide running. Let's say this is running in. The mouth of the river's out here somewhere. We've got tide coming through, but the effect that that's having is it's pushing water out of our berth. So it's effectively pushing us out of our particular berth. So let's look at wind at a couple of different angles. Firstly, wind and tide approximately at the same angles, both pushing us out of the berth. Now, as we come in here, to take us across until we get into down the finger into our berth, we will need to crab across, just to ensure if we were this way, we'd end up traveling like this, and we'd end up in this pontoon here. So we crab across, and you could just come easily in here nose first, assuming that this wind isn't too windy. Now, if it is having a large effect on your vessel and pushing your bow away, you may need to come in stern first. But really, you've got both options here, depending on how windy that wind is. But coming in here, carrying momentum towards the berth, swinging in, and getting a bow line or potentially a midship spring on here will enable us to hold and to secure the vessel. So pretty easy, that situation. By the same token, if we'd come past and we wanted to go in stern in, we'd run astern here until we got that water flowing over the prop. We'd crab in sideways, and we would just bring it up and get that stern line on. Now, if that wind was quite strong, we might in fact find it better to come in with our stern first. And that's because the wind wants to push our bow away. So this will give us a more favourable dynamic where we'll be able to come up. Once we've got that movement over the rudder, we'll be able to come up, reverse it in, have lots of nice control, and we won't have to worry about the bow blowing away in the same way as if we come bow in. Particularly if the wind was quite strong, blowing us off slightly, then it could be hard to kind of get the bow up. So that's some options for us in that scenario. So if we've got wind coming the other way, so we've got the tide pushing us out and the wind pushing us in, then again our bow will likely want to blow away if that wind's pretty strong. And we know we can always move forward through the water into the tide. So possibly the best way to come into this one would be to come down like this, bow first, and get us secured in there. We can always hold the bow up against the dock, even once we start moving, and the wind will help us to do that. If that wind was quite strong, or should I say, if that wind was light, then you likely wouldn't have any problem coming in here stern first, as long as your bow didn't get blown away. And if that wind wasn't too strong, then you would be able to hold this vessel in position here relatively easily as well. So that's that one. So preference here, likely bowing, particularly if it's quite windy. Let's say the wind's generally blowing across the berth in this direction. So we've got the wind blowing us off and the tide pushing us out. So wind off, tide pushing us out. Really, in this scenario, you could come in either way. So you could elect to come in bow first. We'd carry our momentum in this direction, and we would bring ourselves up into here, and then we would secure a line that enabled us to hold up against the against our dock, and that line might change depending on, it's my dog shaking, that line might change depending on how strong that wind is. And we'll talk about that as we go into some of these mooring lines. We could also come in here, stern in, carry that momentum around, and get ourselves secure in here as well, particularly with that tide running. So, and again, we'll talk about mooring lines, but either option available for us there. If we have the wind pushing us onto the berth from this direction and tide still pushing us out, then we have a couple of options here as well. We can come in bow first or stern. We may elect, if we're going to go stern first, to come through, come down past our berth, and then start to crab up this way so that we can come through and offset that wind, and that will become more important the more wind that we have pushing us onto that dock. Remember, we said if we come in this way with the wind, we can land potentially quite hard against the dock. So in this scenario, we may come through, come past, back around, secure a stern line and let that breeze blow the bow on. That's a really good solution. This is kind of an ideal tide wind situation in a way. And we may elect, if we wanted to go bow in, to come back through this way and then bring ourselves forward, bow in, come up against the tide, secure a stern line here, bit of forward thrust, and turning the bow into the dock. So different situations, tide pushing us out, wind pushing us out as well. In this situation, usually the most preferable may be to have the stern in, depending on how much breeze we've got there, but certainly the more breeze, it may be more beneficial to have the stern in. The other way, we'll be coming and we'll be letting the wind blow us away. You do have both options here available to you. The lighter it is, but the more breezy, you might choose to come in this kind of configuration. And then with the wind side, either way to the side, we do have both options available to us, and we'll get into that a bit more when we look at mooring and securing. Okay, that's it for that kind of situation. Next time we will look at tide pushing us into the berth in those various different winds. All right, that's it. Thank you. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, you can find more information in the link, and please feel free to comment and ask us any questions. Yachting is one of those things that's got many different variables in it, different types of boats, different conditions. So we'd love to hear your experience as well and any of your own tips, and we'll include those in the videos. Thanks again, and until next time.